Oh, Brawl Stars. 18 months. You spent 18 months in beta. And for those of you that aren't good at math, that's 2, 4, 6, 10. A year and a half. A year and a half in beta. That's a long time, and a lot can happen in a year and a half. To put that into perspective, back in June 2017, fidget spinners were still a thing.
Hey, fidget spinners are cool.
All right. BTS hadn't taken over the dreams of every 13-year-old girl in the world. No, stop. Stop. And the New England Patriots were the greatest American football team ever. Okay, that last one, that's still valid. All you Jets fans, you just go ahead and hit that dislike button right now. However, Brawl Stars was just getting started. Today we're going to take a look at the history of Brawl Stars, from pre-beta development all the way up to global launch. So buckle your seatbelts because it's time to take a trip down Brawl Stars memory lane. Hey everyone, what's happening? Lex back today for another Brawl Stars video, and today we are going to be taking a look back at Brawl Stars, the history from pre-development beta all the way to global release. And judging from the comment section, there's a lot of you that didn't even realize that Brawl Stars has been in soft launch and beta for a year and a half. Well, if you're feeling left out, this might be a fun history lesson so you can see how far Brawl has come, how much has changed, and it is a bunch since it was first a concept all the way up until now with you all playing it. What other place to start but the very beginning? Let's start back at the pre-launch development of the game, which I guess technically wasn't even a game at this point, it was just an idea. And the idea for the game originally was for it to be set in space. It wasn't a Wild West game, which it isn't now, but it kind of was in the middle. As you can see, here are some images of early brawler concepts or character concepts at the time. Some of these brawlers or characters look nothing like they do today, or they just don't even exist. But they were some early concepts that they have of this space game that they were going to be making. And the name of the game wasn't actually even Brawl Stars. It was called Slugfest, which is kind of a cool name too, but eventually they settled in on the name Brawl Stars. And as you can see, some very early development pictures, like this one right here, the very first drawings ever of Colt. It doesn't really look like Colt as we know him now. I mean, sort of, you can kind of tell, but it doesn't, it's just kind of a idea at that point. It eventually, you know, morphed into this right here. You can see Colt and Shelly there together. It's pretty cool to see the ideas and how they slowly morphed over time into the Colt that we know today. But back then, it was just this random guy in a game called Slugfest. Then came the big day, June 14th, 2017. There was a huge, big YouTuber tournament. You're seeing some footage of that here right now, where a lot of really big YouTubers like Nick at Night and Chief Pat and Molt and Powerbang, Galadon, Clash with Cam, Godson, as well as a bunch of the developers actually for the game took part in a tournament. And it's really kind of funny if you look at this tournament because there's so many things that are so different than they are now. A few notable things like Orange Juice was playing in it, and at one point he had 3 Nita Bears on the field at the same time. Of course, now if you throw one out, it makes the other one disappear and you can only have one. But Jesse could have multiple turrets on at the same time. The maps, of course, look different. And if you guys are noticing, if you're new to Brawl Stars, it was in portrait mode. And we'll get into more of that here in a little bit. But the game stayed in portrait mode for quite some time. Now, at the time, there were only 15 brawlers in the game. There were only 4 game modes: Smash and Grab, which is now called Gem Grab, Showdown, Heist, and Bounty. The currency in the game was completely different than it is now. First of all, you had gold, and gold is what you open up your brawl boxes with. That's not too much different than the tokens. However, to level up your brawlers, you got a drop from these brawl boxes called Elixir. Let me share the pain real quick. There was a legendary Elixir drop where you got 10 Elixir in one drop out of a brawl box, which was really awesome until you realized that the drop rate on a legendary Elixir wasn't that much worse than actually getting a legendary brawler. So you felt like, oh crap, man, I got the elixir and not the actual brawler, because legendary brawlers were hard to get back then too. The other thing that could drop out of those boxes were chips. So you could actually get duplicate brawlers out of brawl boxes, right? So if you already had Colt, you could open up a brawl box and you could get Colt again, but it wouldn't give you Colt. Colt would magically turn into a chip that kind of looked like a poker chip, and you could save these chips, or you would collect them slowly, and over time you would build them up, and you could turn those chips and you go to the shop and buy whatever brawler you wanted. Another big difference when the game first launched is there was only one joystick. In fact, you could actually play without any joysticks at all. Tap to move was an option. You could just tap where you wanted to move and then drag to shoot. Then came the first update in Brawl Stars. Back on July 3rd, 2017, the brand new brawler Piper was introduced, and oh my gosh, was she OP. Another thing that was brand new that got released that day was Feast or Famine, a fan favorite showdown map, a really fun one. On the not so good side, it was right around that time that teaming started happening in Showdown. It got to be so bad, people would organize matches, and you could basically, they were just gaming the system to get trophies. And there were some changes made along the way to help, mitigate that. Now, you remember how I said Piper was really OP? Well, it only lasted about 3 days, because on July the 6th, 2017, Piper got hit with the Nerf bat and she got brought back down to reality. She was still very, very strong, don't get me wrong, but she wasn't just God mode like she was before. Now on September the 4th, 2017 was the next big update. They introduced 2 new brawlers, Pam and Tara. Now in the Brawl Talk, Pam wasn't named Pam, she was called Mama J. Although, prior to that, some leaked footage showed up on the internet where she was called the Minigunner, which coincidentally, she is still called in the dev build. In the game file, she's still known as the Minigunner. It was also during this update that Brawl Ball was added and quickly became one of my favorite events. I love Brawl Ball, and I remember coming home so excited the day that it dropped to play Brawl Ball, and I put out a video. You guys can go back and watch those old ones if you want. They're actually a lot of fun to see how the game was back then, and I was so excited to play Brawl Ball. Some other fun notes about that update is that Mythic and Super Rare rarities were added into the game at that point. They also added GG Corral and Groundhog Burrow as new maps. The clubs, which were then known as bands, were increased to 100 players. Previously there were 50. And then one really big major thing was that back then, if you reached 500 trophies on your brawler, that was it. You could not go above 500. So basically, when you got all your brawlers to 500, you just kind of beat the game. That was it. There was nothing left to play for. There was no season reset. There was nothing. You just got 500 trophies and that was it. Congratulations, you beat Brawl Stars. They removed that cap and made it to where you could go past 500 trophies. Now on December the 5th, 2017, came a massive update that was probably, I will venture to say, the most well-received update in Brawl Stars history. It was a complete overhaul of almost everything in Brawl Stars. There was an entirely new UI which looked amazing. One kind of sad thing that changed a lot of players didn't like was that previously Brawl Stars was a kind of a Western themed game, and in the December 5th update they removed that and it was no longer, it was just kind of an ambiguous kind of theme. It could be anything. There was a brand new brawler that was introduced to the game, and that was the double barrel in a barrel robot, Daryl. It was at this time that perhaps my favorite progression system ever that was been in Brawl Stars was introduced. The new progression system featured a very cool customizable progression path. You could choose which stats to upgrade, whether it be your super, your health, or your attack on your brawlers. You could choose which ones you wanted to increase. You could stack more health in one if you wanted to, or you could put more super in one. It was very cool. You could get these pins, badges, medals, and crests out of boxes, or you could just purchase them with your tokens. This was such a cool progression system. The customizability was so great. However, in the end, the Brawl Stars team felt that it was just too complicated. I still look back on the pins, badges, and medals upgrade system as my favorite. It was also at this time that all of the brawlers' health, power, and all of their stats was multiplied by 4. So if a brawler had 500 health, he now had 2,000 health. The reason why they did this was to help balance the game easier. Now, as I said, this was a massive update, and also this was when star powers were introduced. 2 more things about this update was that friendly battles were introduced at this time, which was a great thing, and also the brand new ticketed events, Robo Rumble and Boss Fight, which is now called Big Game. Fast forward to March 6, 2018, and possibly, undoubtedly, the most controversial and hated update ever in Brawl Stars. There had been a while, the community, we hadn't got any new content. I mean, we understood that the game was being developed and there's a lot of things being changed and whatnot, so we weren't expecting like content all the time, but it had been quite a while since we got any new brawlers or game modes or even new maps or anything like that. And so the community's expectations were high. However, when I got the dev build, probably about 2 weeks or so before the actual Brawl Talk, and got to play it, oh man, was I shocked. We got it, and this is when they changed the game from portrait to landscape. They added 2 joysticks, I guess actually 3. They took away tap to move, and it was such a different game. And I remember very distinctly when Corey and I got the update, we were messaging each other back in DMs, and we're like, dude, this isn't good. This is not good. And we're like trying to keep an open mind, but it was so different. Tap to shoot was gone, and that was really crazy. But they also came out with a brand new UI, and the pins, badges, and medal system that we really loved, gone. It's gone. They simplified it to basically the version that it is now. This is also when auto aim or quick fire was introduced into the game. And I really remember sitting there playing it for the first time thinking, and I was literally like tapping on the screen where I wanted to shoot. I'm like, what's going on here? Why can't I shoot? And I didn't realize that there was actually another joystick down there that I now had to aim with and shoot. And it was just so foreign to me that I was not a fan. And I remember telling the developers, I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna go over well. There was just a massive uproar in the community. I mean, everybody hated it. They hated it. Actually, I really liked the landscape view. I thought that was great, but the controls were just not right to me. Like, it felt slow. I couldn't tap where I wanted to shoot. It just didn't feel like Brawl Stars. And one funny anecdote from this is that when we were out there in Brawl Talk, of course, I knew what was coming in the update before I went out there, and I knew that the community was going to be very upset with this. And so during the Brawl Talk, I kind of razzed Ryan and the Brawl Stars team a little bit right there on camera. I didn't even know if they'd put it in there. Ryan had no clue it was going to happen, but I'll just let you guys watch this little clip right here of what I did to them.
So there's no global, there's no new brawler, there's no new game mode. I'm gonna have to say, yeah.
Yeah, I gave him the big oof. I knew that the community would be really upset, and I wanted to be somewhat of a voice for the community, be like, you know, we're not gonna be happy with this. We wanted something, and you just kind of turned it on our head and didn't give us what we wanted. But in the end, like I said, Brawl Stars was right. And we also found out that later on is that the game's retention, which means how long somebody keeps playing the game after they start, it wasn't doing very good. And they flat out said in a Brawl Talk later on, they said this actually.
And I want to make it really clear that our decision was not portrait or landscape. Our decision was landscape or kill.
So that kind of puts it into perspective. They were doing what they needed to do, and in the end, in the long run, I think the game turned out much better for it. However, at the time, it was a pretty rough time in Brawl. It was the darkest period in Brawl Stars, but in the end, the devs really saw it through. They stuck with it. They changed quite a bit of the things that the people didn't like, and they made it into the game that it is now, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But at the time, oh man, the entire community was just going berserk. It was a wild, wild time in Brawl Stars history. The next big update was on May 23rd, 2018. Brand new brawlers Frank and Penny were introduced. Heist was reworked to have a safe on both sides. It was also at this time that one of my favorite game modes was now introduced, and that is Duo Showdown. Of course, they introduced a new UI, again. Spectate mode was added. They also introduced the trophy road at this point where you move along and have a progression where you get rewards all along the way. That was added there in May 23rd in 2018. And also, they actually put advertisements in the game where you could double the rewards from your boxes after you open them up. They eventually took those away, but for a while there, you could watch a little short ad and you could double the rewards of your brawl boxes, really speeding up free-to-play progression. June 9th, 2018. Came a day that free-to-play players will always remember, and that is that gems could be now obtainable from brawl boxes. Also at that time, Duo Showdown was made permanently available. Also at that time, 4 new skins were added: Phoenix Crow, Summertime Jesse, Dragonite Jesse, and Caveman Frank. Then on June 26, 2018, came a shocker to not only the players, but even to us that are on the inside with Brawl Stars, that we normally get the info quite in advance before the public does. We didn't even know this was happening until like a day or two before, but they released Brawl Stars on Android in all the soft launch countries, which was amazing. And Android now can play Brawl Stars with the rest of the soft launch countries and or anybody who sideloaded the game and VPN'd and, you know, worked your way in. Now on September the 27th, 2018, a new update was introduced. Most of the community thought it was going to be rather small, but it ended up being a lot bigger than they thought. 15 new maps were put into the game, including one that was made by yours truly. That's right, Sneaky Fields. I made that map and submitted it to the team, and they liked it enough that they put it in game. The battle log was introduced. Event modifiers like meteors and life leech and the other ones were also put into the game at that time. And then a tragic turn of events, Mortis lost his hat. Then on November the 7th, 2018, Brawl Stars dropped this picture. And they said nothing else about it. They didn't say what it meant. Was it a sunset? Was it a sunrise? And the entire community started to freak out a little. Now, not long after that, they went in and they deleted everything in their social media. Everything. And then on November 14th came the big announcement that Brawl Stars was going global. A truly epic moment in Brawl Stars history. After a year and a half of waiting and hoping and praying that this would happen, Ryan said this.
Hey guys, my name is Ryan. I'm a community manager for Brawl Stars at Supercell, and today I have some news. Brawl Stars is going global!
What was funny is that 7 months prior, back in April, Kairos, me, and a bunch of other YouTubers were flown out to Finland, and we did all of these streams at the same time. And we didn't know if they were ever going to be going global or not, if these videos would ever see the light of day. Eventually they did. We're almost caught up in time here to December 7th, 2018, when the big pre-global update happened, when they introduced the 3D environments, new Brawler Leon, a new UI revamp, again, some new Brawler skins and models. Mortis got his hat back. They had a new modifier added, healing mushrooms. They had some balance changes and also completely reworked Daryl at that time. So that brings us to December 12th, 2018, when Brawl Stars was launched globally. A bunch of us went out to Helsinki, Finland for a big global launch event. We launched Brawl Stars throughout the entire world, which also, Kairos, myself, and Ash are the ones who pressed the button to launch Brawl Stars live in the USA, actually all of North America on Android, as well as Kairos and I pressed the button to launch Brawl Stars live on Android in Europe as well. So all you Android users in the North America and Europe, you're welcome. Although, coincidentally, we actually almost canceled it in Europe because we almost pressed the wrong button, but that's another story. So that wraps up the history of Brawl Stars, from pre-development all the way to global launch. Now, I couldn't include every single minor detail that was changed and lots of little fun facts. If you want to see more information on that, I have 3 videos called 10 Things Only Original Brawl Stars Players Will Remember. Be sure to go check those out. That has lots of little small fun facts that I didn't cover here. I hope you enjoyed this retrospective on Brawl Stars. Brawl Stars is, to me, the most fun game I think I've ever played. I love it so much. Now, if you made it this far, first off, thanks. I know this is a long video, but I hope you enjoyed it. Now you have a better idea of what Brawl Stars is, was, and what it might be in the future. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, until next time, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace out. I've shown you the history of Brawl Stars, but now it's time for you to make your own history by clicking that subscribe button right up there, or going to watch some more videos right over there. Time's ticking away. You only got a few seconds left. All right, now I'm just kind of extending it, hoping that you'll click that subscribe button. It's worth a shot.